Well, welcome back to Halifax 57 Rescue. Quick update on what we've been working on the last little while. Primarily we've been focusing on the trailing edge, and it's made up of a series of ribs that are tied together with stringers and then skinned. The whole unit bolts on to the rear spar. Recent focus has been on two ribs that hold the flap assembly. These two ribs are robust ribs. They're different than all the other ribs in the trailing edge, and they hold the pivots for the flaps. We only had two, one shown here from the donor aircraft, so we needed to make two more. I wanted to copy them to the best I could to the original. Now this is a Handley Page drawing, wartime drawing, showing the underside of the wing, and there's the two ribs that we're replicating. This shows the part that we're working on today, which is just to the right, that silver part with the holes in it. That's an integral part of the this specialized rib. The parts I'm making from aluminum, and I use this block just to basically make a cut or make up the blank. I do a rough cut and then I put the raw blank into this mold, and then I use the router to route out the part. This 3000 series aluminum is fairly soft and you can use woodworking tools, and the router leaves a pretty nice edge. You just got to clean it up a little bit afterwards. I learned the hard way that you got to keep lubrication on the router bit. Otherwise, it leaves a pretty decent edge. Once the blank is completed, I put it into the hammer form. Make sure the hammer form's free of any bits of aluminum and whatnot that could mar or dent the finish. Lay the piece in. Basically it's sandwiched between the two forms. It's bolted together, but I have to also clamp the whole form to the table and make sure it's really well clamped. If you don't clamp the part really well, you won't get decent results. Here I'm just checking. There's a left and right component. One flares one way, one flares the other way. I'm just making sure I'm going to be forming the part in the right direction. Once it's clamped to the table, I use a rubber mallet. It basically pulls the material down over top of the form. Again, this is 3000 series aluminum. It bends pretty easily, not too hard to work with. To finish the forming, just use a forming hammer, and you can also use a riveting tool with a special hammer form tool on the end of it, but right now I'm just using the hammers. The next step is to make the holes. There's a bunch of flared holes, lightning holes in these parts, and I just use a a die with a hydraulic ram to punch the holes. Once all the holes are punched, we're ready for flaring. So I made a flaring tool out of 2 pieces of aluminum. Basically there's a male and a female component. I'm using the same hydraulic tool. It's a bit fiddly, but it works fine. And again, the material's soft, so it doesn't need a lot of force to form the flare. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Hardest part was making the tool, frankly. You can get aluminum flare tools, they're very expensive. Sorry, aviation flaring tools are very expensive. I just made these myself, pretty quick and easy. Does a good job. Once the parts are all formed, clean off all the excess oils from your hands and things like that. Try to keep the parts clean. At every phase, try to clean them up, make sure this is a chance to inspect the part as well. Afterwards, you just go over it with a Scotch-Brite just to give the paint something to bite onto. And again, cleans up any rough edges that might be left over. Now again, just to stress, these parts are not airworthy. We don't have to spend we don't have to take as much care when it comes to the preparation of the parts. As long as they look the part and they do the job, we're good to go. So here's the new part laid on top of the original part, and I'm pleased with how this turned out. It's a fairly good reproduction of the original, and I think for what we needed to do, it'll be plenty strong, and I'm very happy with how this turned out. Later on, I'll be showing you how I assembled the final rib. Here's the final rib on the left-hand side, clecoed together temporarily. And there's the original on the right. So later on, I'll show you how I made the jig to bring all the parts together, but that'll be for another video. Thanks for your help. Thanks for your support. Thank you.